this has been such a weird and interesting story from Adam Schefter and how it's impacted Rodgers, how it's impacted the Green Bay Packers. And, it kind of begs the question, how much truth is there in all of this? Do I think Rodgers is unhappy? Absolutely. I think there is truth in that. Even if it is kind of petty on Aaron Rodgers' part, I do think there's a lot of truth in it. Because look, I've been kind of thinking of how I want to explain this, and I think of it just like in a workplace scenario. I'm going to give you a workplace analogy here. So say that you're at a company, a pretty successful company for a long time. Essentially, this company is the NFL, right? And everybody has their own department. There's 32 departments in this company, and you're one of the most successful employees in the company coming out of your own department, and your department overall is pretty successful. This department being the Green Bay Packers, right? So if you're going to be at your company for however long Aaron Rodgers has been there, so what, 15 years, 16 years, if you're going to be at that company, right, and you see other people from other departments getting better equipment, getting promotions, and eventually you see people from other departments either switching departments and getting more and more benefits, and end up you getting that the other person from the other department gets a raise. And obviously the raise in the situation would be a Super Bowl. You see other people jumping ahead of you, getting a raise, and you're taking a look at your own department like, what's going on over here? Why are all these other people getting raises when I'm putting in just as much work and I'm putting in just as much effort as everybody else, and we have a good department, but why is everybody else? Basically, the sentiment that I'm going for is, why everybody else and not me? So when you take a look at Aaron Rodgers' situation, once he took it over from Brett Favre in the late 2000s, won a Super Bowl in 2011, that was great. The Packers have been knocking on the door of a Lombardi trophy pretty much every single year. Obviously, there are some outliers in the situation. They've been knocking on the door of a Super Bowl pretty much every single year since Rodgers has been in the quarterback, and he only has one Super Bowl trophy. Do you not think that gets to Aaron Rodgers at some point, saying, look, we have had teams on the precipice of being on a championship, and for one reason or the other, whether that's because of general manager incompetence, whether that's just because of bad coaching or bad players, for some reason or the other, Aaron Rodgers has not found himself with more than one Super Bowl trophy. And again, if you're in that department and you're taking a look at players players from other departments getting better equipment and getting raises, and you're saying, well, why not me? Why not me? And I imagine that after the NFC Championship game last year, and with the drafting of Jordan Love last year, everything has compiled and stewed for long enough that Aaron Rodgers, even though it's petty, it's stewed long enough for Aaron Rodgers to say, okay, what the heck is going on? Why am I not getting the raise? I'm working just as hard as everybody else. I am one of the best employees in this company. Where's my raise? Where's my Super Bowl? So I can imagine that there is some truth involved in this entire Schefter story. There is some truth in the fact that Aaron Rodgers is feeling disrespected, or he feels like he hasn't been helped out enough. There's definitely some truth in that. And there wouldn't be a story unless there is some truth in that. I do want to kind of clarify that. But on the other hand, I don't think Brian Gutekunst has done that bad of a job in Green Bay. In fact, the teams that he's built over the past 2 or 3 seasons have been really, really good. Now, having Aaron Rodgers as your quarterback absolutely helps, but the team building has been pretty good by Gutekunst. And granted, he had a couple of bad seasons here or there in the middle 2010s. And part of that, I feel like, is the fact that, Mike McCarthy as a head football coach was kind of falling out of the trend. He was kind of falling behind in terms of, analytics and how to coach properly. And eventually, there's an old saying in football, and that's eventually you start playing like who your head coach is. And the Packers, for a little bit of a while, were kind of playing like a lethargic, very quiet, and I don't want to say sensitive, but a very reserved man. Eventually, you start playing like your head coach. The Packers started playing like their head coach. They got a new young coach, Matt LaFleur. Everything's fixed. Everything is fantastic. But I think that, I think Gutekunst has done a better job than I think most people give him credit for. And even if you want to take it this year's draft, everybody's like, oh, they need a wide receiver. I was one of the ones who said, yeah, they'll probably take a wide receiver in the first round, if not for the sake of actually needing a wide receiver, but having it be a makeup draft selection for last year when they drafted Jordan Love instead of drafting, Aaron Rodgers some help. They drafted Eric Stokes, cornerback out of Georgia, and they needed a cornerback, and he's a lightning fast runner. He's great in coverage. And I'm going to ask Packers fans here, did you really want Kevin King to play on the field again? You needed a cornerback, and they got a cornerback. They also got 2 offensive linemen in the next 3 rounds, and they got a good wide receiver in a good spot out of Clemson in Amari Rodgers. Gutekunst has been doing, for what it's worth, really pretty good. His only mistake was drafting Jordan Love last year without giving Aaron a heads up. And is that incorrect? Yeah, he shouldn't have done that. Should he give Aaron Rodgers a head up? Yeah, absolutely. But everybody makes mistakes, and that's why I don't think that Aaron Rodgers necessarily wants Gutekunst gone, because this is one really bad mistake, and it's not like Gutekunst has done a horrible job of putting a good team in front of Aaron Rodgers to work with. There certainly have been much, much worse situations in the NFL for really good quarterbacks. Think about what Tom Brady was going through in New England. If you want to compare apples to oranges here, the team that Tom Brady had his last season in New England was nothing like Aaron Rodgers' team that Aaron Rodgers had last season with his Green Bay Packers team. I think that most people choose to attack the fact that the Packers haven't really given Rodgers weapons when they talk about, Rodgers has a right to be upset. He has a right to want Gutekunst gone. They choose to attack the lack of help for Aaron Rodgers as the one thing that they can point to when trying to validate that argument. And I think when most of them talk about that, they're talking about giving Rodgers first-round wide receiver talent. Like, as good as Devontae Adams is, right? I feel like most casual fans want to see Rodgers get somebody like a Julio Jones or a Justin Jefferson or DK Metcalf, because that's what we want to see, right, as football fans. Rodgers throwing to some mutant athlete out of whatever university you get him from, and seeing Rodgers put up some crazy numbers and fantastic offense and great throws, and throwing the football is so much fun. Like, that's what we want to see as football fans, and I think that's the energy that people are going towards when they're saying, Aaron Rodgers doesn't have any weapons. You're right, he doesn't have a big name like Julio Jones to throw to. He doesn't have a mutant weapon like that. He doesn't have a first-round wide receiver to throw to, but he does have good receivers, and it kind of irritates me that people kind of look over the receivers that Rodgers has. The reality is that you can't always draft a generational wide receiver at talent. You can't always draft a generation wide receiver. There are plenty of them available. I think wide receiver is one of the easiest positions to find them at. But the need for wide receiver often kind of doesn't get emphasized over the other 21 positions on the football field, right? There are 20 to 22 positions on the football field. It's not always going to be practical to get that mutant wide receiver that people have been asking for Aaron Rodgers. And it's not like the Packers have bad weapons, as I was saying, Allen Lazard, Valdez Scantling, they're good receivers. They just aren't big names. And I think that's where people get off the train, or get on the train rather, when they say Aaron Rodgers doesn't have anybody to throw to. He does. He has good receivers. They're just not the big names that you'll recognize. And, I will admit, the help for Aaron Rodgers hasn't always been consistent, but it's not like it hasn't been there at all. And if Aaron Rodgers is going to leave over all of this and choose to ignore the good situation that he has around him currently at Green Bay, then I think that says a lot about Aaron's character. And I'm sure those of you who don't like Rodgers, you're going to be all over that. At this point, you either like Aaron Rodgers or you completely hate him. I'm sure everybody else in the NFC North Division is licking their chops. Everybody's, licking their chops and saying, yes, please, Aaron Rodgers, please get the hell out of our division. So that, I guess that begs the question, where would Aaron Rodgers go next season? What is the best place for Aaron Rodgers to go? Folks, thank you so much for listening to this segment from the Hard-Headed Sports Podcast. If you enjoyed this segment, make sure that you drop a like on the video and a comment. It helps me out a bunch. And if you're interested in watching more segments like this from the show after the show has been completed, you should definitely subscribe to the YouTube channel. And if you're interested in listening to the entire show in its full-length entirety, you should listen to the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Anchor. Once again, thank you so much for watching the video. My name is Nick Ryan, and I will see you all again very soon.